Talk about attacking now. I was going to show you an example, but I keep getting this wrong. This is my fourth attempt to video this because I keep doing it wrong because it's really complicated. So we'll try again, and I'll just talk you through it rather than actually try and do an example. So you decide what you're going to do. You're going to attack a particular hex. So we're going to attack that American battalion inside that town. So it's a town, right? Okay. First thing you do is find out your attacking strength. So I've got 4 German battalions attacking that particular hex, and I've also got support from 3 field artillery battalions, and the Americans have also got support from another field artillery battalion. Okay. First thing to remember with this is your artillery isn't always hitting at full strength. Your artillery is actually reduced depending on atmospheric conditions, the terrain effects, and particular time during the offensive. Okay, field artillery for the Germans is different from Nebelwerfer artillery, and defensive artillery has also got a different chart. Okay, so in this particular case, because I'm attacking against a town, and I'm attacking on, say this is the it's a clear turn, so my artillery attack would be reduced from 10 to 5. The Americans are attacking, well, they're not attacking, they're defending that hex. Now that would be normally full CF value, so it'll be 3, but because there's more than one hex where the attack's coming from, it actually reduces that to half. So theirs goes down to 1.5's worth of artillery. Right, you add all those together, and trust me on this, it comes to odds of around 3:2, okay, on the chart. Now the next thing you have to do is you have to look at the terrain effects. Now the terrain effects, because this is a village, you look it up on the terrain effects chart, and you can see that not a village, it's a town, it's defenders times 2. So there's the Americans are now 12 plus their artillery 13.5 against 21.5. Now that is now down to 3:2 on the odds. Now the next thing you have to take into account is the combat effectiveness of the troops, which is the number in the box. Now the Americans are 5s and the Germans are 4, so that gives you 1 column shift to the left. So that makes your attack go down to the 1:1 column. Okay. Next thing you have to look at is weapons effects on ground combat, and there's a mass of these, various things, surprise attacks, tiger scares. Oh dear, there's just there's a lot of them. There's about 15 of them, and they also produce a result. Now, looking at this table, there is nothing that would create any effect on the current target. Oh yes, there is. There's one here. No, I thought that was the attacker. It isn't the attacker. So there's nothing there that would have any effect. Okay. Next thing you do is you'd have to look at the defensive position, see what that if there's any sort of improved or defensive positions, are they having any effect on the fight? Well, there are no defensive positions here, so that doesn't affect anything. Okay, so you finally get to your combat effectiveness and you roll your dice. Okay, so you roll 2 dice and you apply any die roll modifiers, which there aren't any. We've got a column shift that brings us from 3 to 2 to 1 to 1, which is fine. And I rolled a 10, don't know. So I'll look up 10. 10 on the 1 to 1 column gives me /AE, which is attacker eliminated. So this brilliant attack of mine has cost the Germans four battalions wiped out. That is absolutely terrible. But that just gives you a clue about how complicated combat is. There's loads of things that weren't in that. Being out of supply, being out of communication, the effects of aircraft were included. We didn't have artillery shot because we didn't have enough artillery to actually register a shock effect, which also changes the combat results. There are other things as well that you can add to it all. In the advanced game, German heavy armour and anti-tank guns also have an effect on the combat. The advance after combat also depends on what types of units are involved and what type of results you got. So, as you can see, this huge combat procedure chart that you've got here, which has 20 things on it, you're going to have to run through that. And I don't know who you are, but you're never going to memorize this, ever. I don't think you could ever memorize that. This is definitely the most complicated strategic game I've ever seen. You could argue it's actually at a tactical level because everything's battalions, but it well deserves its 8 out of 9 complexity rating.